Here I am, Saturday afternoon. Just got off work at Veritas Steel. I'm leaving this video for the X3 group because obviously, if you're working a 12-hour day, doing things like welding, grinding, whatnot, you think about stuff. Got a grinding grit in my eye. And the only reason I'm able to, well, a couple of reasons, but one of the main reasons that I'm able to physically do the work that I'm doing, building bridges on the weekends, I was fortunate enough that Veritas Steel allowed me to have a weekend job so I can coach people during the week and do what I love there. And this is my income I live on. With that, though, it reminds me of a lot of the people in the X3 group. There's a lot of guys like myself that have done these sorts of jobs their whole lives. And when I was younger, I competed in bodybuilding and pushed. I used to lift way too heavy on top of it. And by the time I was in my late 30s, I was in so much pain and so frozen. My hips were frozen. My left shoulder was completely frozen. My neck had been compressed. And then I ended up getting in a bad car accident and did some weightlifting what I could. And through a mutual friend, John Jagwish just simply suggested the single leg Bosu ball squat to me and some variable resistance stuff. And I knew he was a really bright guy. So I started playing with that, doing those sorts of things. And this was before he had invented the X3. This was when he did the meta-study on balance, or not meta-study, I'm sorry, meta-analysis as of multiple studies on balance, proving the growth hormone output. And I thanked him for his help, left a video, and he filled me in like, not only is this going to help you functionally, but you just raised your growth hormone levels. And that's when I started understanding how to look into, studies and things like that, and went in and have reversed almost everything in my body. And I proved a couple of years ago, I got into show condition just using a Bosu ball and bringing bands to a park. Okay. And John and I reacquainted, and I thanked him for what he had shown me and said, look what I did with it. And he said something like, was pretty amazed at what I had changed. And it got me to get the X3, and everything that I was trying to accomplish with the bands and whatnot, he had like put into this thing, other than my pull-ups or, but 80% of my workout could be this, this X3, and I can take it everywhere with me. And you just need so much less equipment, for example. Normally you'd have to have a power rack and a bar and rig bands on each side, things like that. Just have the bar and the stand, and the bands are actually in a position where they work better that way. So quit blabbering on that. My point I'm getting to, guys, is if you're on the fence about getting an X3, right now, I just worked a 12-hour day lugging around 50, 60, 70, 80, 100-pound pieces of steel, turning wrenches, welding, grinding, pounding concrete. And this is when I used to go warm up and squat. I'd do sets of squats with 400 pounds. And eventually, the last show I did, I was eating so many leaves I made myself sick. The variable resistance actually helps you feel better. At the same time, it creates hypertrophy. So I'm looking forward to getting home and getting my X3 workout in. So any guys that do work like this, they're going to have hip issues. They're going to have shoulder issues. Carpal tunnel comes from the hips. And then lifting all this heavy static load and things like that, we strain ourselves and we get knots and scar tissue. And there's no matter, once you get so bound up, you can't just stretch and get rid of that. Stretching is to keep you in a safe place. You have to keep up on stretching all the time. You have to do mobile work in order to free the body up. That's where the variable resistance, the bands do that. Okay. It reverses what's going on because the muscle, instead of contracting in the stretched position and where the fibers are vulnerable and you're going to strain them, you can start to load once you're like really halfway into the movement. You can really start to overload once all those fibers are grabbed and get better stimulus and actually reach hypoxia through draining the muscle in one set. So not only do I have to do less, I feel better afterwards. My joints actually feel massaged. The muscles are full of blood. And once that scar tissue starts softening up, our brain, when we get those lumps of scar tissue, things are tight, whatever, our brain finds homeostasis and thinks that our body's straight. And we might be walking around with a shoulder up like this, but our brain thinks everything's fine. It's not feeling things like it normally would because of the tightness and scar tissue and whatnot. As that starts to loosen up, eventually you get your hips stronger, your back straightens up, shoulders, and then those tendons and scar tissue starts to soften from being used in a different manner. What then will happen, though, is the brain has to feel these spots again in order to wake up and start using them. And when that stuff softens enough, let's say you go to grab a hammer at work and all of a sudden you'll feel it, it feels like a tearing almost. And that's that weak scar tissue that's built up on either the tendon or between some ligament, like cross areas where the ligaments cross and adjust and assist each other. So one of the biggest places is where, you know, the trap meets up here at the base of the neck, all the way down into the inside of the shoulder blades, the rear delts and the triceps, things like that get really, they're really noticeable. But as soon as that stretches, you're going to feel like a hot burn almost, but relief. And then as you start walking around, you're going to have more range of motion and things will start unraveling. That burning sensation is just the nerves freaking out because now your brain can feel those nerves. And it's like, holy crap, I haven't felt that in a long time. So as soon as your brain feels those nerves again, things start firing, and even muscles that have atrophied start coming back. And as you use more range of motion, then your body thinks you're doing this variable resistance. It thinks, I need to do this range of motion, so I'm going to start loosening this up and tightening this up. It's basically reversing mileage at the same time that you're creating hypertrophy. So not only do people that work the way we do in jobs like this now have a much more efficient way to create muscular hypertrophy without completely beating themselves to death. There's certain athletes, you got to think of like power lifters and strongmen and stuff like that. They can create all their hypertrophy and reverse damage with variable resistance and then just train for skills and things like that. Now, just like work with us, we can build this hypertrophy and then go do our job. And now that we use our hips properly and our shoulders properly, everything will start to unwind itself. Hopefully it helped some people there. John helped me. So that's one of the biggest reasons this is part of John. John is the creator of the X3 and the group and has done a lot of wonderful things for the world. So I owe it to him to contribute in my way. So guys, hopefully it helps you with some of this. And I'll say a million times over, I'm behind John Jagwish and also Emmerich Delsig. I cannot leave him out. And I am firm behind Primal Medical Group, Jagwish Biomedical, and Humanifort. Have a good night.